Hi everyone, and welcome back to Meta-morph. So, the Genestealer called Stratagems, they're something that really defines this army. The army would not function at all without them. So, considering how important they are for the faction, I figured it would be a good idea to go through all the current stratagems that we have, now that we're going into a new edition. And we need to experiment to be successful on the field of battle. So this would be a good exercise for me. Just go through every stratagem like in detail, write down my thoughts, share them with you, just check what's available in the toolbox, and maybe we'll figure out something new, hopefully. So since there's a lot of stratagems, I decided to split this video up into two parts. So this will be part one, where I'll go over the general stratagems that we have in the codex, Genestealer cults, and next week in part two I'll go over the cult-specific stratagems from the codex, as well as the stratagems that we got from the Greater Good Psychic Awakening book. Alright, so let's dive into this. So first out we have clandestine goals. And I'm not even gonna read this one. It's a relic from 8th edition that basically lets you hide your tactical objectives from your opponent. And we don't use tactical objectives anymore, so it's useless. Let's move on. Lurk in the shadows, 2 command points. Use this stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Select the Genestealer cult's infantry unit from your army that is entirely on or within any terrain feature. Until the end of the phase, enemy models can only shoot that unit if it is the closest unit that is visible to them. So, I think this is quite useful. It's designed to protect infantry units. And now in 9th, infantry units are actually very important. They can do actions, they hold objectives, we can have powerful counter-chargers behind our front line, and this can also actually be used, like if we have characters in our backline and we have a unit protecting them, this can actually protect the unit that is protecting the character, which is quite good since our units are quite squishy. However, there is also a big problem. We need to screen the unit we want to protect, and to screen it, well, we basically need a lot of guys to screen it because they're easy to kill. Another problem is that the unit has to be entirely on within a terrain feature, and depending on your board, it could come into play, it could also not come into play, but I say it's a pretty good tool to have. They came from below, 1 command point. So use this stratagem before you reveal an ambush marker. Select up to 3 units, excluding vehicles, from your army that is set up in ambush. For each unit that you select, remove 1 ambush marker from the battlefield. The selected units are no longer set up in ambush and are instead set up underground, as described in the cult ambush ability. Okay, so this one, I think it's a cheap stratagem. I think it's very useful. I use it almost every game I play. Because it's so good to, like, if you go second, you can just deny an enemy alpha strike. It's like, they're gonna, since you have to start half your army on the board, then suddenly you can pick up 3 blips with large units, and like, nope, these are going back into reserve, coming in turn 2-3 to help me do a solid beta strike. So yeah, I think it's really good. The only thing is, if you got too much stuff in reserve and you want to bring it in all at once, you can run out of board space pretty quickly. So something to keep in mind. But overall, a good stratagem. Brood Coven, 1 command point. Use this stratagem before the battle if your warlord is a patriarch. Select up to 1 magus and up to 1 primus from your army. Generate a warlord trait for each selected model. Note that these models are only regarded as your warlord for the purposes of these warlord traits. All 3 models must have a different warlord trait. This stratagem can only be used once per battle. So this is another, cheap, useful. I use it very often actually. I know normally in large games you take at least 1 patriarch, 1 primus and 1 magus anyway. So it's just 3 warlord traits, or well, 3 you pay a command point for them. So for the patriarch, you usually pick a defensive or offensive Warlord trait, Primus usually get the extra orange from me, and the Magus is a bit of a utility pick. So overall, I like it. Okay, Devoted Crew. Use this for Devoted Crew, 1 command point. Okay, use this stratagem at the start of any turn. Select the Genestealer cult's vehicle model from your army. Until the end of the turn, use the top row of the model's damage table, regardless of how many wounds it has left. This ends immediately if the model is reduced to 0 wounds. So this one I think is a bit okay, not super great. The main use I can see for it is like if you need extra movement from a truck or a rock grinder, yeah, it could be worth it. Just to like get into a table quarter or get on an objective or move block something. For damage output, I'm not really sure. Like single vehicles that degrade that we have, trucks and rock grinders, they're not really that good for doing damage. Limited ballistic skill 4+ doesn't really help. The only use I could see for like damage would be a rock grinder with like heavy mine laser, seismic cannon. It also has damage charge on top with a unit embarked, and then you give it the Alpha's aura for +1 to hit, and then afterwards you charge it as well into the enemy. Then yeah, it could be worth it. Just like maybe steal an objective from a MSU unit. Okay, so next one. Monstrous Vigor, 2 command points. Use this stratagem at the start of your turn. Select an aberrant unit from your army. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to bestial vigor rolls made for the unit. So bestial vigor is the 5+ Fiend of Pain that we have. So it basically takes them from a 5-up Fiend of Pain to a 4-up Fiend of Pain. It's okay. Probably want to use it on a 10-man unit to get the most value out of it. Like to really discourage someone from shooting at them, but at the same time, aberrants hit pretty hard, so the enemy want to be they really want to be shooting at them. It's like, and if you really have some aberrants and you need them to stay alive to like get you some victory points by holding an objective or doing an action, or like if they're screening something for you, yeah, sure, it's okay. It's a bit too bad that aberrants are very expensive right now and not really that efficient for their cost. It's okay. Okay, moving on. Meticulous Uprising, 1 command point. Use this stratagem before you reveal an ambush marker. Move up to 3 of your ambush markers up to 12 inches each. These markers cannot be moved within 9 inches of any enemy models or outside your deployment zone. So this one is it's a useful one. I don't really use it every game, but for some games it could really make a difference. Like if you have a opponent with a fast army and they're going first, or like they have infiltrating units and you can see like, yeah, they're gonna first turn charge my units. They can't move within 9 inches of your blips, and when you reveal them, you can just move them 12 inches back to really like deny that charge. So that's pretty good. You can also move them out of line of sight to deny shooting. So yeah, overall it's a useful stratagem to have to help us stay alive a bit longer. Okay, Hyper Metabolism, 1 command point. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select the Genestealer cult's character from your army. That model gains D3 lost wounds. Yeah, this one I feel it's an okay stratagem, but really our characters are quite squishy, and as soon as they take any damage from the enemy, they normally die. They tend not to survive. But if you have a Patriarch or an Abominant, like our beefiest characters, if you have one, like if it's able to survive on 1 wound, yeah, it's definitely useful. Or if like early game and you perils on your Magus or Patriarch and lose 3 wounds, and like, yeah, that wasn't really part of the plan. So yeah, this could help with that. But yeah, an okay tool to have, nothing game breaking. Okay, moving on. Rig to blow, 1 command point. Use this stratagem when a Genestealer cult's vehicle model from your army that is equipped with a cache of demolition charges is destroyed. Do not roll a d6. That model automatically explodes. So I really like this one. It's awesome. So you can use this just to take one of your trucks or rock runners, just charge it into like several enemy units. Don't really care about it. It goes in, they kill it, it blows up. It's great. You can also like park your trucks or your vehicles on objectives, and if someone comes and charges you and kills you, you just blow it up and hurt them. Some downsides is, since it's a stratagem, you can only use this on 1 vehicle per phase. But hey, you can do 1 in the shooting phase, 1 in the charge phase, or the combat phase. So yeah, and also you have to pay for the demolition charges for every vehicle. So I mean, if you have a lot of vehicles, it adds up. Like 8 vehicles, that's 80 points. Which is, you could get another squad of acolytes for it. So I mean, it's good if you build your army to like make use of this stratagem, then yeah, it's great. Okay, the first curse. Use this stratagem before the battle. Select a pure strain Genestealer unit from your army and roll a d6 to see which effect applies to this unit for the duration of the battle. On a 1-2, each wound roll of a 6+ from attack made in the fight phase by models in this unit inflict 1 additional damage. On a 3-4, add 1 to advanced and charge rolls made for this unit. And on a 5-6, the unit loses its swift and deadly ability, but the save characteristic of models in the unit is changed to 4+. You can only use the stratagem once per battle. So you pay a command point to get a random buff on a unit that is already overcosted and like outshined by other units. So this is a big nope for me. I mean, sure, some of these buffs are useful, but it's random. So no, it's not worth it. I mean, sure, if you make a fluffy army with a blob of 20 Genestealers, sure, use it, but nah, it's not for me. Okay. Cult reinforcements, 1 command point. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select a Genestealer cult's unit from your army that has the troops battlefield roll. You can return up to d6 slain models to that unit, with each set up in unit coherency and more than 1 inch away from any enemy models. If it is not possible to place a model in such a way, it is not returned to the unit. So this one, I feel it's really useful. I think I've used it almost in every game, at least once. And with 9th edition, it became even better. Because say you have a unit of acolytes on an objective that somehow survived to your turn. You can use this to like suddenly regain like up to 6 acolytes, and suddenly you have more obsec on the objective than your opponent, so you steal it from them. So they don't score it at the start of the turn. Also, like if your units are running low on models, you can return and you return slain models back to them. It will help protect your characters, since what is it, if a squad goes below 3 models, you can't they can't protect the character anymore. And also a bit of a cheeky tactic I saw with this is if you have a squad of acolytes with demolition charges, like a large squad, and you throw you throw the demolition charges, they're one-time use, and then when you take casualties, you remove the acolytes with demolition charges, and then you use this to return them, and they have new demo charges. So it's a pretty cheeky little tactic. Okay. Detonate concealed explosives, 2 command points. So Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase, if any Genestealer cult models from your army are on the battlefield. Select an enemy unit on the battlefield and roll d6. Subtract 1 from the result if the unit is a character and add 1 if the unit contains 10 or more models. On a 4+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 7+, it suffers d6 mortal wounds instead. Yeah, I mean, 2 command points, you're not guaranteed damage, and if you get damage, it's random damage. It could just be 1 mortal wound. I mean, I don't think it's worth it at all. I mean, sure, if you have a lot of CP over and you really need to kill that one marine standing on an objective to win the game in the last turn, yeah, okay, go for it. But otherwise, no, I don't like it at all. Waste the command points. Moving on, scanner decoys, 1 command point. Use this stratagem when you set up a unit from your army that has the cult ambush ability in ambush. Place 4 ambush markers for that unit instead of 1. If you have used this stratagem, then when you reveal ambush markers, once there are no units from your army remaining in ambush, remove all of your remaining ambush markers from the battlefield. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. Okay, so this is another useful one. For more deployment shenanigans, you can use it to refuse a flank to your opponent, or if you're going first, you can counter deploy your opponent, make your own little alpha strike, suddenly are your ridge runners going on the left flank or on the right flank? You can decide. And also, if you're going second, you can use this extra rip to move block certain armies that want to get up close to you, or just simply counter deploy. The enemy wants to alpha strike me, on this flank. Well, suddenly there are no units on that flank. So yeah, I really like this one. Okay, moving on. Perfect ambush, 3 command points. Use this stratagem in the movement phase, immediately after you set up an infantry or biker unit from your army that has the cult ambush ability on the battlefield. That unit can either move d6, even if it has arrived as reinforcements, or it can shoot with all of its ranged weapons as if it were your shooting phase. Using this stratagem in your own turn does not prevent that unit from shooting in your shooting phase or making a charge move in the charge phase of this turn. So this is a bit of our, this is our stratagem, the Genestealer cult stratagem, and it is useful. You can easily take in or get in large units of acolytes or something, just charge into enemy objective holders, kill them, and just take the objective from them. Or if the enemy has a large target, it's very good to just throw an acolyte missile with just lots of rock salts or special weapons on a target. And if you build for it, you can use it for the double shooting part. It has some limitations, for example, you can't use the Alphas +1 to hit ability, since it's not the shooting phase when you shoot the first time. So, but it's still useful. Since it's a lot of command points invested, you really want to use this on larger units that really bring the hurt. However, even if this is one of our best stratagems, it can easily be countered. If you put down 10 to 15 acolytes in front of some aggressors, they can just auspec scan you, and suddenly you don't have your 10 to 15 acolytes anymore. Or they can just choose to overwatch you and really hurt you. And also, it is good, but you can't really trust it either, because you can roll a 1 or 2 on that d6 move, and suddenly you fail that charge, and you spent 3 command points, and your unit is just sitting there out in the open, not doing anything, and you're just gonna die the next turn. So, it is very useful, but it can fail. It's not a guarantee. Okay, so moving on. Telepathic summons, 2 command points. Use this stratagem at the start of your psychic phase. Select a cult psychic model from your army. That model cannot attempt to manifest any psychic powers this phase. Instead, roll the 3d6. You can add 1 new cult, infantry or biker unit to your army if it has the cult ambush ability and its power rating is equal to or less than this roll. Otherwise, no new unit is added. That unit is immediately set up on the battlefield anywhere that is more than 9 inches from any enemy models. So, this is an okay stratagem. I will only use it in larger games, around 2000 points, due to the cost and the fact that you have to reserve points for it. It gives you some flexibility to tailor like your list to your opponent's list, but yeah, like if you need some extra horde clearing or need some extra anti-tank or something. It can also be used to like get in some extra characters in one detachment, in case if you want 2 Sanctuses or 2 Meta-morphs in one detachment. But also consider that you can just add another patrol detachment for 2 command points. It is probably easier. One thing also, the units you summon, they gain the cult keyword, but they do not gain any benefits from the cult creed that you're using, since they're not technically part of that detachment. Okay, so let's move on. Return to the shadows, 1 command point. Use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select 1 infantry or biker unit from your army that has the cult ambush ability and is more than 3 inches away from any enemy models. You cannot select a unit that relied as reinforcements this turn. Remove that unit from the battlefield. At the end of your next movement phase, that unit is set up on the battlefield again, anywhere that is more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. If the battle ends before this unit is set back up, it is destroyed. Okay. This is a really useful stratagem, especially in 9th. You can use this like turn 3, turn 4, like pick up units and redeploy them during the late game. Like if you need to grab objectives in your opponent's backfield or on the other side of the table, or if you need to get some secondaries like deploy scramblers or engage in all fronts or similar stuff. So yeah, it's very useful. Another thing I found it useful for is to deny your opponent kills. Like if your opponent picks assassinate, you can just pick up your characters and move them to the other side of the table, and the opponent can't really kill them, or at least it's very difficult for them to kill them. This can also be used in combination with while we stand we fight to keep like your expensive characters alive, so to the end of the game to get you more points. So yeah, overall, useful strategy. Alright, lying in wait, 2 command points. Use this stratagem when you set up a unit from your army that has the cult ambush ability as reinforcements. When setting up that unit, it can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches away from any enemy models. But that unit cannot make a charge move this turn. So this is another really useful one that is like very characteristic for the Genestealer cult. To just pop up very close to an opponent. So this can be used to steal objectives from your opponent if they have not screened their objectives good enough. It's like, so if you're able to get within 3 of an objective and just pop up with a lot of obsec units, that's great. So it kind of forces your opponent to screen out a bit more than perhaps they would like to. It's also great for secondaries, mainly deploy scramblers. Like your opponent can try to like screen out their entire deployment zone if they want to, but I mean, if we can jump up with 5 acolytes, like just outside of 3, it's very difficult for them to screen that out. For offensive purposes, I mean, of course, there's a classic jumping up, dropping demolition charges together with the extra explosive stratagem. Could also be used with just normal blasting charges. If the enemies, if you need to kill enemy characters, you have a Meta-morph, but their screening is very good. You can just jump up outside of free to get some extra range and hopefully kill a character. That's key to the enemy. And also, if you have hand flamers, now hand flamers are going up to 12 inches, so this will be less useful for them in the future. But right now, when they're 6 inches, it can be used for a big squad of acolytes or Meta-morph just to jump up with hand flamers and clear some screens. At the same time, just like with the perfect ambush, this can easily be countered with the opponent just screening you out from the important stuff, or simply using Auspex scan when you jump up and just delete your units before you can use them. So yeah, useful, but have to be used like at the right time. Alright, extra explosives, 1 command point. Use this stratagem before a Genestealer cult's unit from your army is selected to shoot or fire Overwatch. Up to 10 models from that unit that are armed with grenades can throw a grenade at this phase, instead of only 1 model being able to do so. No more than 5 of these models can throw demolition charges. So this is very useful, I think, to get some real damage in the shooting phase. The classic one, of course, is the biker bomb that you use together with the Rusty Claw bikers to drop 5 demolition charges and get plus to hit and wound, of course. But you can also use it with acolytes jumping out of reserve together with lying weight, or just disembarking from a truck, or just running up to the opponent. You can also use it just with basic neophytes, just to throw a lot of blasting charges. With the new blast rules, if an opponent puts out 20 to 30 models or something, or 11 plus models, I should say, 10 neophytes with blasting charges, that's that's a lot of grenades being thrown. But yeah, usually you want to combine this with lying weight, which makes it a bit expensive. A total of 3 command points spent. So it's useful, but use it carefully, because you really want to get value for those command points you spend. And finally, we have Grandsire's Gift, which is 1 command point or 3 command points. Use this stratagem before the battle. Your army can have 1 extra sacred relic of the cult for 1 command point, or 2 extra sacred relics of the cult for 3 command points. All of the sacred relics of the cult that you include must be different and be given to different Genestealer cult characters. This stratagem can only be used once per battle. So this is one I really like. I find it really useful. I normally just go for the 1 extra relic, because 3 command points is a bit much. Normally my main relic I take is the Crouchling, just to make our important psychic powers that a bit more reliable. So it's good to have the option to take another relic, because there are a lot of great ones, like the sword, or the amulet that denies can deny the opponent Overwatch, or the icon for extra strength, and so forth. So yeah, it's a useful stratagem to have, but if you use it, you probably want to build a bit around it, or yeah, so you just don't take anything just for fun. Okay, so that was a lot of reading. Next week we'll go over the rest of the stratagems, but I think I've got off to a pretty good start here going over this once. So if any of you that are watching and listening have any thoughts of your own regarding these stratagems, or have any like combinations, so when you can use them, or any questions about how they work, just post them down in the comments, and I'm sure we can have a great discussion about them. Okay, well, thank you for watching. Until next week, have a good one.